converted to Christianity and under execution order currently in Iran. So
You're under an execution order in Iran?
that's correct, yeah.
What
So
for?
I'm an asylum seeker as well.
Iran is already destined, did you know that? There is a prophecy in the book of Jeremiah that speaks about this. You didn't know, but there is a prophecy in the Bible that mentions a specific region of Iran by name. It's not a vague or symbolic reference. It's a text that describes with impressive details what would happen to this nation in the last days. And the most shocking part? This prophecy was written 2,600 years ago and is being fulfilled now while you watch this video. Prepare yourself, because when you understand what Jeremiah wrote, you'll see that what's happening in Iran today is the living fulfillment of the prophecies. There's a book in the Bible that most people ignore, not because it's uninteresting, but because it seems too distant, too ancient, too disconnected from our reality. This book is Jeremiah, and within it, hidden between chapters of judgment and lamentation, there is a prophecy that should be stamped on all the world's newspapers at this exact moment. Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 34 to 39. 6 verses, only 6. But in these 6 verses is contained the destiny of an entire nation, a nation that today threatens world peace, a nation that developed nuclear technology, a nation that financed terrorism for decades, a nation that promised to destroy Israel. I'm talking about Iran. But before going deep into the prophecy, you need to understand something fundamental. The Iran we know today is not mentioned in the Bible by that name. It appears with 2 different names in different prophecies, with completely distinct destinies, and this distinction is crucial to understand what's happening now. The first name is Elam. Elam was an ancient kingdom located in the southwest of current Iranian territory. If you take a map and look for where Iran's nuclear installations are today, you'll find the city of Bushehr on the shores of the Persian Gulf. This city is exactly in the heart of what was the ancient kingdom of Elam. You think that's coincidence? Then wait, it's not over. The second name is Persia. Persia was a much larger empire that encompassed most of modern Iran. The Persians were famous for their archers and for their military capacity. It was the Persian king Cyrus who conquered Babylon and freed the Jews from exile. Persia has a history intertwined with God's people that goes back millennia. Now pay very close attention to this. The Bible has separate prophecies for Elam and for Persia. Jeremiah prophesies about Elam, Ezekiel prophesies about Persia, and these prophecies describe different events that happen at different moments. When you understand this distinction, the entire prophetic scenario about Iran begins to make sense. Let's open Jeremiah 49. The prophet is at the beginning of Zedekiah's reign, around 597 before Christ. Jerusalem had not yet been destroyed, but the Babylonian threat hung in the air. And in this context of tension and uncertainty, God gives Jeremiah a specific word about a distant nation. Thus says the Lord of hosts, "Behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might." The bow. Why does God specifically mention the bow? Because the Elamites were legendary archers. Their military fame was built upon the skill of their warriors with bow and arrow. When an Elamite army marched to war, their archers were feared throughout the ancient world. The bow was the symbol of Elam's military power. It was their most devastating weapon. It was the source of their confidence. And God says, "I will break this bow." Now think with me. If the bow represented Elam's military power in antiquity, what would represent Iran's military power today? What is the weapon that gives Iran its position of strength on the world stage? What is the instrument that makes other nations fear this country? The nuclear program. Many biblical scholars believe that the prophecy about breaking Elam's bow is a direct reference to the destruction of Iran's nuclear program. And it's not a forced interpretation. The Elam region is exactly where Iran's main nuclear installations are located. Bushehr, Natanz, Isfahan, all these cities are in the territory the Bible calls Elam. But that's not all that God reveals through Jeremiah. I will bring upon Elam the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them toward all those winds, and there shall be no nation where the outcasts of Elam shall not come. The four winds. Attacks coming from all directions, pressure from all sides, and the result? A massive exodus, the people of Elam being scattered to all nations of the earth. Do you know what happened since 1979, when the Islamic Revolution took power in Iran? Millions of Iranians fled the country. They went to the United States, to Europe, to Brazil, to Australia. Today you find Iranian communities in practically all countries of the world. The Iranian diaspora is one of the largest in modern history. But Jeremiah is not just talking about voluntary emigration. He is describing something much more dramatic, something that would force people to flee en masse, something catastrophic. And then we arrive at verse 37. I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies and before those who seek their life. I will bring disaster upon them, my fierce anger, declares the Lord. The fury of God's wrath. These are not soft words. It's not a gentle warning. It's a declaration of absolute judgment. God is saying that his burning anger will be poured out upon Elam, and the reason is implicit in the text. They became enemies of his people. Since 1979, the Iranian regime has been shouting death to Israel in their mosques, in their parliaments, in their streets. Iran's leaders have repeatedly promised to wipe Israel off the map. They financed and armed Hamas, which massacred more than 1,200 innocent Israelis in October 2023. They equipped Hezbollah with more than 150,000 missiles pointed at Israeli cities. They trained and financed the Houthis, who attack ships in the Red Sea. But there is a promise that runs through the entire Bible like a golden thread. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse. When a nation raises its hand against Israel, it is raising its hand against God himself. And God does not remain silent. Now comes the most impressive part of the prophecy. I will set my throne in Elam and destroy their king and officials, declares the Lord. Did you catch that? God is promising to destroy the king and the officials of Elam, not just weaken, not just humiliate, destroy, and he will establish his throne in that land. This means that after judgment, God will claim that region for himself. He will transform a place of curse into a place of blessing, and this brings us to what is happening at this exact moment in the streets of Iran. On December 28, 2025, something exploded. The Iranian currency, the rial, had lost almost 80% of its value. Inflation exceeded 42%. Entire families could no longer buy food. The merchants of Tehran's Grand Bazaar, the country's economic heart, closed their shops in protest. And then the people took to the streets. It wasn't a common protest. It wasn't a controlled demonstration. It was an explosion of fury accumulated for decades. The shouts echoed in more than 190 cities. Death to the dictator! Death to Khamenei! The Iranian people, who lived under the yoke of a brutal theocracy for 46 years, finally said enough, but what came after was even more shocking. On January 8, 2026, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei gave a direct order. He authorized the Revolutionary Guards and the Basij forces to open fire on unarmed protesters. What followed was the largest massacre in Iran's contemporary history. According to sources within the Supreme National Security Council, on the nights of January 8th and 9, at least 12,000 people were killed. 12,000 in just 2 nights. Men, women, youth. People who only wanted freedom. People who dared to defy a regime that considers itself God's representative on earth. The regime cut the internet from the entire country, a total blackout that lasted more than 84 hours. They wanted to hide the truth from the world. They wanted to kill their own people in the shadows. But truth always finds a way. And here's what few perceive. The Iranian people are shouting exactly what Jeremiah prophesied. They are crying out for the fall of the king and the officials. They are demanding the destruction of the regime. It's not external forces imposing change. It's the people themselves rising up from within. But Jeremiah's prophecy doesn't end in destruction. There is a final verse that changes everything. But in the latter days I will restore the fortunes of Elam, declares the Lord. In the latter days, God specifies the time. This is not about the distant past, it's about the end times. And God promises restoration after judgment. He promises to bring back the captives of Elam. He promises redemption for this people. And here's something that will surprise you. While the Islamic regime persecutes Christians, while converting from Islam to Christianity is punished with prison and death, while pastors are executed for their faith, something extraordinary is happening in secret. Iran is experiencing one of the largest Christian revivals in modern history. According to reports from missionary organizations and from the American State Department itself, millions of Iranians are abandoning Islam and turning to Jesus Christ. Underground churches are multiplying in apartments, basements, and private homes. People are having dreams and visions with Jesus. The gospel is spreading like uncontrollable fire. An Iranian pastor who was expelled from the country shared something impressive. During his exit interview, the authorities asked how many converts he estimated existed in Iran. He said that before being arrested, Christian leaders estimated about 500,000, but he believes that now this number could reach 10 million. 10 million Iranians following Jesus, under the noses of the Ayatollahs. Despite persecution, despite the risk of death, God is fulfilling his promise. He is restoring the captives of Elam, not politically but spiritually. He is saving the Iranian people from the inside out. And this is exactly what the prophecy said would happen in the latter days. Now you may be wondering, but what about Ezekiel's prophecy? And Persia that will attack Israel along with Russia? How do these two prophecies connect? That's a crucial question. Ezekiel 38 describes a great war in the last days. A coalition of nations will rise against Israel, and at the top of this list is Persia. Along with it are Magog, identified by many as Russia, Gomer and Togarmah, regions of modern Turkey, Cush, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Put, Libya. But remember, Elam and Persia are different regions. Elam is only a part of Iran, specifically the southwest. Jeremiah's prophecy may refer to the destruction of the nuclear program and the collapse of the current regime. Ezekiel's prophecy may refer to what remains of Iran after this destruction. Think of it this way. The Elam region, where the nuclear installations are, is devastated. The regime falls, but the rest of Iranian territory remains. And eventually what's left of Iran joins Russia and other nations for a desperate attack against Israel. In June 2025, Israel launched Operation Roaring Lion. More than 200 jets attacked Iranian nuclear installations. The Natanz reactor was destroyed. Nuclear scientists were eliminated. Revolutionary Guard commanders were killed. The bow of Elam was broken. Are you seeing the sequence? First, Iran's military power is destroyed, fulfilling Jeremiah 49. Then the regime falls under the pressure of internal protests. The king and the officials are destroyed. And then, in the latter days, what remains joins the Ezekiel 38 coalition for a final attack against Israel. But the result of this final war is already written. Ezekiel 39 says that God intervenes supernaturally. The coalition is completely destroyed in the mountains of Israel, and the reason? So that the nations may know that He is the Lord. Marzieh Amirizadeh is an Iranian Christian who was sentenced to death for her faith. She spent months in one of the regime's most brutal prisons before being miraculously freed. Today she lives in the United States and has a powerful message. She says that God's justice against Iran's evil rulers has already begun. She points to Jeremiah 49 and declares that the fulfillment of this prophecy is happening before our eyes. The king and the officials will be destroyed. And after that, God will restore his kingdom through Jesus. She also remembers something important. In biblical history, it was a Persian king who freed the Jews and allowed the reconstruction of Jerusalem. Cyrus was called by God, "my anointed," in Isaiah 45. And now Prince Reza Pahlavi, heir of the exiled ancient Persian monarchy, is proposing peace agreements and cooperation with Israel. History is repeating itself. Just as God used Cyrus in the past, he may be preparing a new deliverance. What does all this mean for us? It means we are living in extraordinary times. The prophecies that remain sealed for millennia are unfolding before our eyes. What our grandparents only read in the scriptures, we are watching on the news. It means that God is real and his word is true. When a prophet writes something 2,600 years ago and it is fulfilled with millimetric precision in our generation, there's no way to deny the authenticity of divine revelation. It means that Israel is God's prophetic clock. If you want to know where we are on the biblical timeline, look at Israel, look at Jerusalem, look at Israel's enemies and what's happening to them, and it means that Jesus is returning. He himself said, "When you see all these things, know that it is near at the doors." The signs are multiplying. The stage is being prepared. But there's something that needs to touch your heart. The Iranian people are not our enemy. They are victims of a demonic regime. They are prisoners of an ideology that destroyed their lives, and God loves them deeply. While Khamenei ordered shooting at his own people, millions of Iranians cried out for freedom. Women tore off their veils in the streets. Youth faced tanks with stones. This is a people desperate for hope, a people ready to hear the good news. Pray for them. Pray for the persecuted Christians who risk everything to follow Jesus. Pray for the fall of the evil regime. Pray for the restoration promised in Jeremiah 49:39 to be completely fulfilled. Jeremiah's prophecy is not just an ancient text. It's a window to the future. It's a map that shows exactly where we are and where we're going. The bow is broken. The kings are falling. Judgment has arrived, but restoration comes right after. And you? Are you prepared for what comes next? If you watched until here, comment, "God's prophecies are fulfilled." Stay with God and until the next video.